Welcome to the Old-Fashioned Three. They've been around basketball from the Big Dipper to the Greek Freak, from Russell Celtics to Curry's Warriors, from Peach Baskets to Paolo Banchero. Here are Whitey Gleason, Phantom, and Jerry Reynolds.
Yes, that was that cat, all right.
Yeah, well, we obviously have a lot of basketball to talk about, but first things first, where you guys get the shirts? What's the deal with the shirts?
The boss gave them to us.
Really?
Yeah. You can get one?
I guess I did. I didn't know we were supposed to wear them.
Yeah. Well, that's why he gave it to us.
Wait, he's our boss?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the Stone. There's Stones Radio Networks. That's Stones.
Did you know shirts are to wear?
Yeah.
I thought it was
Just he wanted to hang
No,
it
a
up.
decoration or
Yeah.
something,
No.
like to commemorate our 57th episode
No.
or whatever it was. Yeah, 55? That was a pretty good guess. It's
That's
our
not bad at
55th
all.
episode.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
55
All right,
today
well,
No,
yeah.
well, I
Yeah.
think you look good like a canary or something, but that's okay.
compared to the company guys.
Company
yeah,
guys.
absolutely.
Okay, company guys.
Company
the canary.
guys, the canary.
That's the new
Episode
logo.
1.
Yeah, I'm surprised by how vigorously I find myself rooting for the Nuggets, but I can't imagine I'm rooting for them with any more passion than you are. You must be thrilled right now.
I'm just about as nervous going into those games as the Kings and Warriors series.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
because I want the Lakers beat. That's a big, but also want Mike Malone to win more than the Nuggets per se. But I'm really, they've never been to the finals, and it's
Two
their
wins
time.
away. Two wins away.
But it is 2 wins away.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Lakers can't shoot, Mr. Basketball.
Yeah, I mean, Lakers played 2 tough games. They could have won. They didn't win, but all the Nuggets did is hold serve. But I really think yesterday's a game that Lakers should have won. I mean, they should have won that game yesterday. They had everything going. I mean, Jokic had a triple-double, but he had 5 turnovers and missed all of his threes and shot under 50%. Obviously, Murray was great in the fourth quarter, but not the first 3. And I think the Lakers had the game there for the taking, but 8 for 30 from three-point range, including 6 from LeBron, including some of them at the end were about 25 feet, it looked like. And I really thought that they were, they're shooting 55% on two-pointers, and they go out to three-point range, and I think they gave the game away a little bit. I think they really should have won that game and taken advantage of Denver not being at the top of their game, and I think that, they're going to come back and go, hey, we should be 1-1 right now.
Well, too, I mean, they got a marvelous performance out of Hachimura, which you can't count on.
Yes.
Every night, but it's I mean, the thing that strikes me with LeBron, obviously he's still a great player, but in the first game he settled for a 3 when he shouldn't have.
Yeah, he took a real long one.
And for a guy who really doesn't shoot threes very well, I mean, I'm just thinking of LeBron back, say 7, 8 years, he would never have done that.
Right.
It's the old thing. He can always get a better shot than that, and I think in truth is he can't always get a better shot than that.
Yeah, I remember Tyreek Evans' first game, Summer League, and the way he just would always snake his way to the basket. I remember asking you, and I'm all gushing, wow, have you ever seen anybody get to the basket better than him? And you said, well, LeBron James.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, even then, he was didn't really have a grasp on the whole thing.
Yeah. How big is this, Coach? This is 2 games in a row now, the Nuggets with more attempts, and it was more dramatic, I think, in the first game. But last night, 89 shots for Denver, Lakers 82 attempts. How big are possessions in this series?
Well, I think maybe more than about any other series. I really do. I mean, it's amazing to me almost as fast as they try to play, there's not more attempts,
Mm-hmm.
Because both teams are really, maybe the Nuggets more than the Lakers, but it's a great series, though. I mean, I think both teams are really trying to play defense. I mean, of course, I think you see the same thing in Boston and Heat to a different degree, especially the Heat. But that both series are very interesting, very different.
Absolutely.
I mean, the Heat. I'm convinced now. Eric Spoelstra is a coaching god.
Really?
There should be,
There should be a statue of him right now.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
You shouldn't wait another day.
Yeah. That's a real coaching mismatch right now, that series.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. And I think Missoula's, competent and, but it's tough being first year and all that. I mean, he'll become, I think, if they stick with him, then they should. He'll be a terrific coach. But he's what Eric Spoelstra may have been 10 years ago.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
how damaging can it be, Mr. Basketball, when Missoula gets upset and he's mad at the level of intensity, and he throws his clipboard down and he storms out of the huddle, and then it doesn't do any good.
Well, I mean, maybe if he had a little more time on the job, that makes a little more impression on the guys. But a first-year coach getting really mad and throwing a tantrum, that really doesn't penetrate, I don't think, to guys who've been on the team for a while. So, no, I think basically him calling a timeout during that third quarter would have been more beneficial than him throwing the clipboard down on the ground. But I really think when you look at that series now, Indiana Jones is coming out with a new movie. I don't know if you are aware of that. I'm looking forward to it, but it's not getting great buzz. If they remade the second Indiana Jones, The Temple of Doom, where they had the guy who took the heart out of the other guy, you remember that?
Yeah.
Jimmy Butler would play that part.
Yes,
I
he
really
would.
think Jimmy Butler would play that part, and that's why I worry about the Celtics. And I did it also in the series before that. Is they just don't seem to have anything beyond those first two guys. They just don't seem to have the heart. Now they took care of Philadelphia because they were a little bit heartless as well. But this is a different animal. I mean, an 8 seed that plays with the confidence of a 1 seed, and like I say, Jimmy Butler, he'll pull your heart right out.
Yeah, and
He worked a long time on that little
He
thing.
sure
I can
did,
see.
didn't he?
I got on the way. It was on the car show on the way in.
Yeah,
'cause
but
I didn't get any callers, so I
it's
was
a good
just doing-
analogy, though. I mean, they are. I mean, I think that's why they're where they are. I mean, they've got a lot of just guys that really
Absolutely just
you know.
guys.
I mean, obviously,
Fit the system, so to speak.
so to speak.
Yeah.
I've always said. I mean, really, when you look to me, the Heat it starts right at the top, and that's Pat Riley. You know, they got a great owner who doesn't mess with Pat Riley, and Eric Spoelstra is Pat Riley Jr. You know, he's created him, and they've
did
had
a
the
pretty
same
good job at it.
same scouting crew, Chet Kammerer, his son, and Andy Ellis. I mean, they've got the same guys. That hasn't changed for 15 years.
Still got Udonis Haslam.
Yeah, that's changed for
which
25
they
years.
paid him as
Yeah.
a player for years,
Yeah.
not to be a
Yeah.
locker room coach,
Mm-hmm.
and which is a good.
It worked,
you
yeah.
know. I always remember we had a equipment man for years, and he went to Miami, you know. And anyway, I just really talking to him the last couple of times we'd go into Miami, or I was around him much, and he just talked. He said, I said, you know, what's the difference? He said, it's like a difference night and day. He said, now, they'll pay you well. I said, I'm getting paid a lot more and benefits and stuff, but they expect a lot more. You know,
Get what you pay for.
you know, in other words, you know, everything's got to be done. It's got to be done right, and it's got to be done on time. And of course, I've told you guys the story about Billy Owens, getting Billy Owens from Miami after, and I think it's Kevin Gamble for Walt Williams that one year, and with the Saints playoff team in '96, and Billy comes in, you know, and Kevin Gamble looks like they're in the military, you know, shoes stacked,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, shoes put in place, everything's put in place. I'm
Everything where it
serious.
should be, yeah.
And I always struck me, and I just asked, you know, and really for a half year, those guys came in, especially Billy was good. You know, I mean, he did what he could do. He's not, couldn't shoot, but he could play. And of course, within about the start of the next year, he became Billy Owens
He
again.
unmilitarized, yeah.
You know, because
Yeah.
we didn't run
Turned
a very
back
tight
into
ship,
Brooklyn.
you know, stuff thrown around and everything.
I always
Yeah.
like Kevin Gamble.
Yeah,
Yeah, I always
yeah.
like Kevin Gamble.
Yeah.
Here's what I don't get about the Celtics. What am I missing here? Last year, the Celtics, they probably should have won the championship. One of the reasons they didn't is because their offense would bog down in the half court. I remember doing a radio interview last year with Jim Jackson, and he said, you know, Marcus Smart's a good player. He's not a very good point guard, and they struggle with that in the half courts. It's like, okay, so they had the whole offseason to deal with that, and now here we are, conference finals again, and their offense still bogs down in the half court. Why didn't they do something about that? What am I missing?
They thought they did, and they didn't. I mean, in other words, they got Malcolm Brogdon, who's a very good player, but he's a scoring guy, and Derek White. I mean, neither one of them are real quick penetrators,
Yeah.
draw and kick kind of
Yeah.
guys, and that's what they really need. I mean, they don't, like you say. Probably the best guy at actually creating problems is Jaylen Brown when you really get down to it.
Yeah,
as
yeah.
far as beating somebody off the dribble, making a play for somebody.
Yeah, but there's
And-
nobody that will organize the offense when they really
Right.
needed to. It just starts to fall apart. And I mean, Tatum with back-to-back travels, it was embarrassing.
That is
Yeah,
embarrassing.
yeah, really. I mean, I agree. I mean, they're certainly he's a good player, but And defensively, he's credited for being a little better than he is, actually, I think.
Interesting.
He's kind of given credit for being like he was 5 years ago,
Right.
in my mind, when he really was a stopper. You know how that goes. Once a guy gets established, he gets gets a pass on stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, they need somebody out there that's really quick and can go make plays.
Yeah.
Almost a Rondo kind of guy back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that game the other day, Marcus Smart had 10 assists. They made a whole big deal about how many assists. He had 10 assists at halftime, so obviously he's on his way, and I think he finished with 11. So that kind of indicates what happened in the second half as far as the way they approached it. And it seems like if the two guys aren't doing it, they have other guys who can do it, but if somebody doesn't step up, like you're saying, that they just don't have the concerted attack they're going to need to get it done in the half court.
They start to remind me of the Paul George, Carmelo Anthony, Westbrook Thunder, where it was like, okay, your turn, go
Right.
do something. Okay, your turn. And it's just easier to guard as good as those players are, and they seem to lapse into that. But let me ask you something, Mr. Basketball. Jerry and I talked about this on the car show today, and I'll be honest, the reviews for the car show today.
Abbreviated car show or something? 'Cause I tuned in and it wasn't there.
Yeah.
What,
Right,
was your engineer taking the day off or something?
It's
We're
working
working-
into it.
we're
You know what
You
I'm
just
saying?
well, that's a Friday.
Well, I think the yellow shirt really took me by
I mean, if
storm.
you're not going to be a team player,
I could see he didn't really
Canary
care.
Joe.
It's the
Yeah.
Canary Joe show. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not going to work.
What has happened to the point guard position? I watched the Denver
my
Nuggets.
gosh.
It's like they don't really have one. And, it's like, okay, well, they have a chance here to win a championship. Boston, we talked about issues they've had. You got Kyle Lowry, and, of course, in Miami. But the Lakers, who's really their point? They got some guys that are kind of point guards. What has happened to the position? Is the position changing? Is it evolving? Is it devolving?
It's changing. We've talked about it a lot of times. It's a hybrid now. It's a 1-2 is not. There's not a 1. There's not a 2. At least the way that we grew up watching the game, they need a point guard. Well, the point guards, if a point guard doesn't score now, he's not considered. You can't keep him on the floor almost, and that's what happened. And now we have Steph Curry, who's a point guard, but he's really a shooting guard. And James Harden is the same way. Westbrook is the same way. So I guess it's evolved. You can call it that, but I think it has devolved because the job of the point guard, as it used to be constructed, was to, control the ball, get your team into an offense, and make things happen, which is exactly what you're saying, Jared, which is exactly what the Celtics need right now is a guy to do that. So I think that as far as it's more difficult to guard guards now because they let people, as we've talked about, Jerry, a lot of times go ahead and hold the ball, that hesitation dribble.
Yeah.
You really can and stay in front of people. If you can't stay in front of a guy, then he's going to go ahead and drive to the basket and score. So scoring is a much bigger component of being a point guard, I think, than it used to be.
Oh, I think you're exactly right. I mean, to me, it's what I'd call a point wing. I mean, point guards are basically wing guards that are interchangeable, but really all your wings have to be able to score.
Yeah.
Some are a little quicker and faster generally and all that, but they're all it's a wing game and an ends power
Right.
game.
A point guard who plays like a wing, because you're driving and you're taking the shot.
Well, I said that to me. That's why Fox was so good this year. I mean, and with he and Halliburton, you'd think, well, that should really be good, but it wasn't because they were both kind of the same. I mean, Halliburton's a little more of a playmaker, certainly Fox a little more of a scorer, but I definitely think you've got to have, but you got to have that guy who can break defenses down. I mean, it's like Murray is not a true point guard in our sense,
Right.
But he's quick enough to make plays and really put the defense on their heels.
And they run their offense through the Joker anyway,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like the Kings ran their offense through Sabonis.
Through
Right,
Sabonis,
and
yeah.
you've taken the point responsibility off the guard in many cases now and given it to another player.
Yeah.
Like you talked about Sabonis. So Sabonis is a point center, if you will, so that gives the guards a different job now because they don't have to be using more of the ball handling, getting the team into the offense. They're free now to score. So that changes the position right there because other people are handling the ball. I mean, Draymond Green, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go through the final four. Your playmakers mainly are Jokic and LeBron James.
Yep.
And then
Absolutely.
for Boston,
No,
it's probably Jaylen Brown, if anybody. to some degree, and then Jimmy Butler for Miami.
Yeah.
Yeah, so your Final Four teams, none of them have what,
Right.
and they're not trying to have point guards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they're not even they're playmakers. They're
Yeah.
making the plays for the rest of the teams,
Yeah.
and it doesn't have to be the point guard.
You mentioned Draymond Green. To me, the Warriors are kind of hiding now behind the punch. I know that when they lost, they got eliminated. Steve Kerr said, and for what it's worth, I agreed with him. He said, "This team, we got it. We went as far as we were going to go. We maxed out. In other words, we weren't better than this." But now, this week, is the punch, and you didn't want to talk about the punch all year, which I understand.
I did.
And now you want to talk about the punch, and oh boy, it's something like that's tough to overcome, and it's almost like they're holding that up as that's the reason why we're still not playing. And to me, it's like, well, I'm sure that wasn't great, but the reason you're not still playing is because you don't have enough good players. So in a way, it was like they're hiding behind the punch, which kind of surprised me. Like, oh, our chemistry was bad, which is a lot easier than to say we suck this year, basically, compared to what we've been in the past.
Well, the thing I didn't like about that, and Steve Kerr coming out and saying that as far as the punch is concerned, but also saying we want Draymond back. Draymond is the reason we win. Draymond is a great player. So what he's doing is he's endorsing the punch. In a way, he's going, yeah, this was bad, but the guy who did it, the guy who was our team leader and supposed to get everybody on the same page, the fact that we want him. So that's more important than what he did as far as disrupting the team. So obviously he's taken a side, and I'm sure that was reflected all season long that he was on the Draymond Green side, and that we've talked about it from the beginning of the show 55 episodes ago. There's a divide on that team that maybe was precipitated by the fact that the young guys were supposed to be the second team guys now, and they never really graduated to that position, and that started a division within the team, at least we think it did, that was kind of characterized by the punch, but that still exists as far as that division on the team, and I think that's why it didn't go as far as it could have gone.
Well, it seemed to, if it affected only one guy, it would seem to me that Poole would have been that guy because he wasn't anywhere near the same player and didn't seem to be involved in the team like before. Now, maybe wasn't the punch all the way. It was just his role changed, which he didn't seem to like.
Right.
And didn't adjust to it, didn't seem to want to adjust to it.
Right.
And so to me, that kind of then, as Phantom said, I think the so-called young guys, first of course Wiseman and
remember
Kuminga
him?
and Moody.
Kuminga,
Remember James Wiseman?
yeah. Which
another Piston,
yeah, another high lottery pick for the Pistons.
Yeah,
they've got a dozen of them, but and then. I think they got better, just by getting Gary Payton Jr. kind of on board and Wiggins back. But that was never a truly happy team, and Poole a disappointment, and Kuminga certainly did not look like the guy they want him to be.
That's a great point you make, Jerry, about Wiggins, though. I mean, part of the reason they're in the position they are is because they were the sixth seed.
Yeah.
Okay. So if they have Wiggins for those 25 games, whatever it was that he's missing, then you're not the sixth seed probably. So that has an effect on the way the rest of the season goes. So it's not just, I don't think it's as simple as saying you went as far as your talent could take you, and that's as far as you could have gone. I think they could have gone farther if everything would have broke out right.
Let me ask you guys this. I was on 1140 on Wednesday. Somebody on the YouTube chat says, hey, Herder for Kuminga. What do you think of that one if you're the Kings? What? I don't think I would do that, Jerry. How about you?
I don't believe I would.
Wow.
I would take a.
How did you respond on air on 1140?
I think I responded with no.
Okay, end of
something
conversation.
Yeah,
Thank you very
yeah,
much
yeah.
for expressing our feelings.
Yeah.
Well done.
Well, of course, I think Moody's the better prospect of those two. On a basketball team, he may not, he couldn't go to Detroit and score a lot of points, probably like Kuminga could.
Lower ceiling, higher floor kind of thing.
Well, I always say, I think Kuminga has the ability to get a lot more empty points. That sort of thing. Yeah,
which I think he may be
could go
fine with ultimately.
Yeah, he could go play on a 20-win team and average 18, where Moody probably couldn't do that. But Moody could average maybe 10 on a winner, and Kuminga that might not fit at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, you fall in love with athleticism, and I'm sure that they do. They watch this guy in practice, and he's amazing jumping out of the gym and everything. Why can't we translate that to the floor? And except for very small increments, you really can't, because you got to be part of the larger collective, and he's really not.
Yeah, he may, he's one of those guys that could get there. But it may be more than just another spot. It may be a 2 or 3 year progress because he's got to. He certainly doesn't shoot it well enough. Isn't good enough to really dedicate an offense to him, regardless of his athleticism.
I think that was the big mistake the Warriors made, and we'll leave it there with the Warriors for now. But here they had a chance to reload. They had the number 2 pick, they had the number 7 pick, and they went for talent, but they drafted 2 guys in Wiseman, who they didn't know a lot about. You know, a little Wiseman and Kuminga, and neither one of those guys ever showed a real inclination for playing basketball the way the Warriors play basketball, and I think they've paid for that.
Yeah, I think they have too. I mean, it did appear, when that boy they're set for a long run.
Yeah.
Based on if these guys are what they're supposed to be. Well, they're not.
Yeah.
They're not yet. Doesn't mean they'll never be, because some guys do come around
Right.
later.
Great point.
But
Some guys come around later. Like, here's an example.
And we're still waiting on me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Sometimes you're well into your 60s before that happens.
Way well into him, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in the Wiseman situation, he wasn't really scouted because he went to college for the 1 year and didn't even play. Really, he got
Played
hurt
one
right
game,
away.
I
He got
think.
hurt right away. So I mean, you're taking kind of a roll
I
of the
know.
dice at number
Right.
2 when you're taking a guy, a big man who was hurt, and now we're going to go ahead and make him number 2. So yeah, I mean that was iffy
Yep.
right from the start.
Speaking of the draft, and we're just talking about point guards, this whole thing about how the point guard position is changing, and you see it before our very eyes here. That's one reason why I would not use a high pick on a guy who's probably going to go number 2, Scoot Henderson.
Yeah.
Scoot rhymes with can't shoot, and I don't think he's a very good shooter, and he's very gifted, I know, and I don't know a lot about I haven't done all my homework yet, but Scoot Henderson at number 2, right now, if I had to say, I'd say I think he's going to be a disappointment, Jer.
I think he could be. I don't like him as much as most people. He's got some Derrick Rose in him to where he's such a spectacular
Sure.
athlete that but he can't shoot very well. And I'm not sure, like Derrick Rose never could. He got better, and about the time he got better, he got hurt, and that was that, which is a shame. But and I don't think he's quite the athlete Rose is either, by the way. But I mean, that's his game, is kind of being a better athlete than the guys.
It's kind of John Wallish in a way, right?
Yeah, that might be a better analogy. And I mean, obviously Wall was really good, but yeah, I'm not sure. And like I say, especially if he goes to a team, like Houston or something that's got Jalen Green and Kevin Porter
Anybody
Jr.
going to Houston? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in other words, he's probably better than Porter. Probably, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Right.
But the bigger question would be, well, how does he make them better? He just makes them different.
Mm-hmm.
It's another guard getting a lot of their points instead of one that was.
They were so disorganized.
I've not
last
been
year.
in many draft rooms, Jerry. I know you have. I don't think that you base your choice on what the guy's first name rhymes with. I mean, maybe in the Purvis Ellison case, it might have been nice to know that.
Yeah.
But he seems to one of those guys. And I saw a picture of him the other day. He's built like a linebacker. He's one
Purvis
of those
Ellison's
guys.
built like
the other guy,
Scoot Henderson?
can't shoot Henderson. So he looks like maybe a kind of guy like a Tyreek Evans we were talking about. That got to the basket anytime he wanted.
Yeah.
Never had to learn how to do anything else. But I think what's interesting about the draft is it seems like I've already seen that 3 and 4 are up for sale. Portland said we want to trade number 3, and Houston has talked about trading number 4. So that's interesting as far as what Portland wants to do by trading the number 3 spot and maybe reloading for Dame Lillard or whatever. So, and we talk about Houston. Houston needs to go out and get what we just were discussing, the archaic, old-time point guard who comes
they're
in.
getting him.
They got him? Oh yeah, no, that's not him.
James Harden's
That's
going to
not
Houston.
no.
I just don't
No,
believe that.
that's not no.
Yeah, that is.
That's
one
not
of
the old-time point guard.
Hey,
I'm talking
that's-
about.
They're
that's
set
one
at
of the-
point
No.
guard with James
Get
Harden.
an adult in the room, but it ain't James Harden unless it's a strip club. He'll be in that room.
That's the one thing. I just, to me, the rumors that Houston wants Harden back. Why would they do that? Why?
That I don't know.
There's no reason.
No reason.
No reason.
And I mean, I can see his agent putting that out there because, Houston wants him. They want to give him a 4-year contract for $200 million, and like as if Philly's going to react to that. If I'm Philly, I say, boy, go for it. We're not. In other words, if I'm Philly, I'd say we'll take you back. But if you opt out of your contract, it ain't going to be $43 million again.
Right. Well, I'm with you. There's no way I would hitch my wagon to James Harden at this point for
No.
even less than what's being rumored. but I could see how Houston would. Oh, he's a veteran. He's just what we need. We got this young team, kind of been floundering. I think it'd be dumb. I agree with you, but I guess I'm less skeptical that it's true. But you would know better than I.
Well, I mean, if you like say if I'm Philly, I'd say, well, I'll try to sign and trade you, and we'll take Jalen Green, and Houston, you can have him. And,
Yeah.
And then, Tyrese Maxey's our guy going forward here. And your guard line, I think, is better.
Well, I mean, if
Differently,
you're
but
Houston,
better. And then, you'd have to convince Jalen that every time it felt like leather, he didn't have to shoot it.
Good luck with that.
Well, it'd be a process. I guarantee you. It'd take, Embiid would probably have to pound him in the locker room at some point.
What's your theory, though, if you're Houston, where I'm going to have Harden dribbling the ball and 4 lottery picks just standing around watching him?
Yeah,
I don't know how anybody really benefits from that.
I'm running the. I agree with you, but I'm just trying to take the other side. I'm running the Şengün and Harden, going to pick and roll you to death, Phantom.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
good luck with that.
It would be effective. There's no doubt. Şengün's a really underrated player. I think the only reason they would do something like that is because the owner's convinced it's going to bring all the fans back.
Yeah. And they were hoping they'd get Wembanyama, and they missed on that. They've been trying for that for years, and now it's like, well, now what do we do?
The only thing is, I'm sure that they love Harden in Houston, but the only thing is, if you talk to anybody in the NBA, who's the one guy you don't want to watch play basketball? It's usually James Harden, right?
Other than maybe Houston fans, I can't speak to that. In other words,
maybe they love him. Maybe they do.
I think. I mean, he did have, but he's not the same player he was with them either.
He's not as good.
No.
So that's another
he
reason.
wasn't good enough when he was there.
Right. So let's go get him.
Well, let's see. I mean, that's like, okay, you think New Orleans would like to get Chris Paul back? Because he's so good there.
Yeah, he really was.
Boy, he
Don't
was.
underestimate it, Jerry. He was very good there.
He was very good there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was great.
He was good on the Lakers was Kareem. I'll tell you that right now. That guy was good. I'm not paying $40 million a year for him to get back.
Well, we mentioned last time we got together Wembanyama to the Spurs would probably be a good fit. Let me ask you this, and Mitch Moss is a friend of mine. I used to work with him, and he's on a show in Vegas now, and I know he threw this out on Twitter and on his show. Who is the best player that you would trade for Wembanyama right now? In other words, you look at all the teams. For example, Chicago Bulls, I would trade, if I'm the Bulls, I would trade anybody for Wembanyama right now.
Well,
if I'm the Celtics, would I trade Tatum for him? No. Would I trade Jaylen Brown? I would think about it. Who's the best player in the NBA that you think you'd be willing to trade for Wembanyama
so
right
team
now?
dependent, because I mean,
I'd trade Anthony Davis for him. That's for sure.
Yeah. For the youth and the reinvigoration of it. Anthony Davis is he's so good sometimes, and they're like,
I know
it's not just the injuries, is it? He's just inconsistent.
About to give him the rubber stamp before last night's game, but okay, he's put a couple of games together now. It's not good game, bad game, good game, bad game, and then all of a sudden last night he goes 4 for 15.
Well, I mean, and I know he's good, really good. I mean, and occasionally he's great. But would you trade Wembanyama for him? Well, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because will for sure he be better than an AD next year? I don't know that, but I know it won't be long.
Yeah.
Well, the Spurs wouldn't offer you Wembanyama for him, but
no, of course not.
If Houston would have got the first pick, they probably would have done because he'd pair up well with Harden.
Yeah.
So that'd be a
Would
fantastic.
you trade Steph Curry for Wembanyama?
Well,
again, and we know that they wouldn't do this.
If I was the Warriors, I'd have to. No, I never would because I'd never trade Steph Curry off the Warriors. I mean, it's just a cultural. You can't do that. So, no, I would not do that. Anybody else on the Warriors, absolutely. But I wouldn't trade Steph Curry because it's like trading Cal Ripken.
And then the other
Warriors.
way is San Antonio wouldn't either.
No, of course not. I know that. I know
that.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, so
we know that he's going to the other side, though.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
But the point is about it's like the Bucks certainly wouldn't trade Giannis.
Yeah,
for
Giannis.
him.
Right.
I mean,
Embiid.
I would
offer.
I would think.
I'd think about that
one. I would think about that.
You guys would probably disagree, but I would, in a blink of an eye, if I'm Dallas and I could do it, I would trade Luka for Wembanyama like that.
I would have already traded. He would already be gone. Yeah, I mean, I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, I mean, with Luka
camp.
and Trae Young. Just about any of those guys, you'd have to think about it. I'd trade Paolo Banchero and your partridge in a pear tree. You can take 2 or 3 other guys off there.
That's not a canary shot, is it? The
No,
partridge,
it kind of is.
Okay.
Kind of.
It
What
is.
about Shea? What about SGA? I really would. I don't know that I would do that.
I don't know that I would either. I'd sure trade him Holmgren and somebody else.
Yeah, I'm not. But I'm not going to try to. Oh yeah. What about this over here? Do you want this?
I think they're really close, aren't they?
Yeah, I don't think they want to
I
mess.
think they
I
are
think,
too. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it would take. I mean, like I say, with Holmgren, you don't know, and for sure, and you don't know for sure about Wimben. You pretty much do.
Right.
But if I could get Wembanyama for Holmgren and somebody else and 2 first-round picks or 5 second-round
Well,
picks.
that would be exciting. Obviously.
Well, they become
that'd be a pretty good ticket
I
right
think
there.
they become a championship team. Mm-hmm. Championship contender
Yeah.
first year.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how much different things look next season as opposed to this year. Still, I think things are still kind of in a state of flux.
Would you trade Zion? Of course you would.
Well, I would have traded. I was trying to get rid of Zion before
Yeah.
the season even started.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely.
I'd trade Zion and Ingram and I don't know.
the ghost of
maybe
Anthony Davis and Chris Paul.
Murphy the third or Herb Jones, and I love those guys.
Yeah,
So,
I do
yeah,
too.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I mean, you definitely would. I mean, certainly, I'd like to keep Ingram maybe, but if you could trade, Zion and Valanciunas and
Yeah.
some first rounder, something like that, which
Well, as a general manager, what do you think Portland's? If you were the Portland guy, what would you? You have the number 3 pick.
Number 3
You
pick.
have Dame, who has been loyal to you for decades, and you got some pretty good talent, up and
Yeah.
coming, but you don't really have a team yet. So they're talking about trading the number 3 pick. Would you do that, or what do you think you could parlay that into? Because if you're not going to get enough to make Dame and Portland a playoff contender, you're not going to get that for that pick.
no, that's my issue. I think they're in a tough spot. I mean, they're almost in a situation where they'll say, "Hey, Dame, come in here. Let's sit down here and talk about it."
That's what I thought they would have done a
You
while
know,
ago, really.
Here's the reality, Dame. We can't make this good enough for you if you would like to contend for something. So, and the only way we can rebuild is if
Absolutely.
a nice way of saying we got to trade you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And you and the 3rd round pick, and we might could
Man,
actually
you
do
could
it.
get something, Dame and the number 3 pick. Yeah, absolutely.
And you probably have to get a new coach too, right? Don't you
yeah,
think?
I think
honestly?
so. Yeah, I think
Yeah, that hasn't worked out so
no,
well.
it hadn't worked out
No.
that well. I mean,
Maybe Doc, but I know Phantom says Doc's staying in Philly.
Doc's
so-
going to be in Philly until for a couple more hours.
Ah, it
Hey,
happens.
come
Yeah.
on. Hey.
You have an opinion and see what happens.
You throw an
Well-
opinion out there, maybe, but just acknowledge, please, that it wasn't all Doc's fault. I mean, he had his shortcomings, of course, but he was kind of betrayed.
He's
by
a good
by his
coach.
people.
He's a good coach. It just, I was talking to you on the radio show there at 1140, and I think it's in my mind. I hope Doc goes to TV
Yes, I know you've made that
Yes.
very apparent
because
before.
he's terrific. He's
Yes.
way better than most of them that got on there. And then, of course, like I say, the dream would be, of course, Mark Jackson go
for
to
Reggie
Philly.
Miller to get out of TV and go, yeah.
Love Reggie, but the other
well,
Mark
maybe
Jackson
not,
so
yeah.
much.
Yeah. The thing that works against Doc, in my opinion, is he was with the Clippers. Obviously they won a championship with Boston, but they're with the Clippers with the Lob City guys, and they kind of got to a point where they just weren't getting better, and they ran it back, weren't getting better. Same type of thing happened with George and Kawhi there, right? And I know they had a lot of injuries, and then he went to Philly, and he had a lot of talent, and they just got to a point where they just weren't getting better. And maybe that's not all on him. Maybe that's about putting a better team together. But it just seems like his teams, the last 3 teams he's had, have just not. He hasn't had the ability to get them to that next level that they needed to be at to compete for an actual championship.
Well, the other thing is, he's had 4 jobs. He's been fired 4 times. And I mean, at what point? It's kind of like the Alvin Gentry thing. Is, there's a point. How many jobs do you get?
Yeah.
I mean, head jobs. I mean,
He did do a good job in Orlando, right?
I think he did a good
Orlando,
job.
and in
I
Boston.
don't think he's done a bad job, but I mean, it's okay. Maybe it wasn't even fair, but that's the point. It's so maybe it's time for somebody else to get a shot. Like I said, Darvin Ham. Look what kind of job he's done as a first-time head coach. Of course, he certainly paid his dues and CBA and all that, but. I don't know. I just think Doc, you made a ton of money. Get your butt to TV. You're good. You'll be good. You're way better than most of them on there now, and they surely know that. and you get yourself $1 million a year. And
By the way, tip of the cap to Jerry as he's talking here. I'm reminded that last year, and I think this was before the Kings hired Mike Brown. And Jerry, and I don't know if he said it, just maybe we're just hanging out, or I don't think he said it here, but he was talking about candidates, and he said, was it Kelvin Sampson?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember you saying, he's a real good candidate. The Bucks are talking to him. So,
well, he's
yeah.
Kelvin Sampson is a ball coach. I'm
Yeah.
just telling you right now. If of anybody from the college ranks that would be a great hire, I'm convinced it's him. He was an assistant with Kevin McHale with the Rockets, and I, of course, known him for a while. But the guy's he's the real deal, and now he's made University of Houston a national power, for God's sakes. And so yeah, he'd be a great candidate. Yeah, I mean, obviously the Kings really got a terrific guy, but I think to me Kelvin Sampson's a lot like Michael Malone. He's a truth teller. He's a straight shooter and maybe a little over the edge compared to Malone.
Too straight,
He'd make Mike Malone a little.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting.
He'll hurt your feelings now.
Well, I don't want
Those
any of
kids,
that.
you can't do that.
I
these
get enough
days,
of that
Jerry.
here with you guys.
But I think it's interesting when you talk about Doc Rivers. Is you talk about the teams that he was coaching, and they got to a certain level, and they didn't go any further. And isn't the general manager's job and everything to figure out? Well, is it because the players got their ceiling, or is it because of the coach? And as we always say, it's always easier to get rid of the coach.
but so many of those teams blew leads.
Yeah.
in
I know.
the
I know.
playoffs,
And then you could,
right?
and then,
And they had
then you can
leads.
trace that
Yeah.
directly back
Well.
to the coaching. But I just think, especially with that Clippers team, they had guys who kind of reached what they could do, and I don't know that they could do anymore. But yeah, when you get into a position that you can close it out and you don't close it out, that's going to always come back to the
Well,
coach.
yeah, that's the nature of it. I mean, that's why Nick Nurse gets fired, or Mike Budenholzer, or Monty Williams. I mean, are they going to get a better coach to replace any of those guys? Excellent chance they won't.
No, they might just
Just
switch
moving
it on.
pieces
Yeah,
around.
You know, it's
exactly.
like I always said about the Terry Stotts thing. Yeah, or Rick Adelman. I mean, okay, move on from them. And now,
Good luck. Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
luck.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah.
And it just seems like so many of them take themselves by surprise by firing the guy.
Well,
It's like, okay, I'm going to fire you. Oh, wait a minute, that means I have to find somebody else. Wait a minute.
Well, Daryl Morey. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but Doc won a championship. Do you recall Daryl Morey winning anything?
I don't. Not off the top of my
No,
head.
no,
I could
no,
look it
no,
up.
right
I know he's
away,
hard.
no.
A bunch
Stones
of
can look it
Stones
up.
could Google it, I guess.
not-
Our
I'm
boss
not-
can look it up.
Yeah, the boss.
I don't know if he and Harden, what kind of relationship they got. I don't want to know too much more, but
Hello.
but it's begin to wonder sometime. You know, it's like wherever Morey goes, Harden has to follow, I guess. And
Yeah.
and so there you are.
Maybe he's, Budenholzer. We were talking about Budenholzer a few weeks ago, how he probably paid for the fact that he stuck to his guns, and this is the way we're going to do it. And defensively, as your son was saying, as Zach was saying, they'd stick to kind of the pack line defense. They were defending the paint, and they'd give you the threes, and that burned him. But he stuck with it. I think with Murray, I think it's like Harden's my guy. The analytics say he's my guy, and we're going to stick with it. Well, good luck.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think, and with he was never Daryl Morey's coach. He was already there when Morey was hired.
Doc, yeah,
Doc. I
Yeah.
mean, and like say with the Milwaukee thing, you got new ownership situation in Phoenix. That always seemed.
We're
like,
gonna fix it. I'm gonna fix it.
Yeah. Get my guy.
Yeah.
Boy, there we'll go.
You talk about the analytics say he's the guy, and I think sometimes nowadays it's like the two words that you can't say are eye test. Because you can't. The way we used to evaluate people is you'd watch them play, and now you say, "Well, the analytics say this guy's there," but then when you go watch and follow it, you see a different story. So I think that's kind of the thing. Maybe that's the eye test is being pushed away now, and people are going, "No, I got to go back to the numbers. I got to go back and look here." But it seems like sometimes the numbers say one thing, and you watch the games, you go, "But that's not really. It doesn't translate. That's not really the way it is." So it's tough. It's tough to figure that out because people who don't know usually go to numbers to try to back up their arguments.
Well, that's why I say, I mean, you look at who's consistently doing the best kind of jobs. Invariably, I think they have eyes to test.
There you go.
Know, I mean, the Pat Rileys and the Danny Ainges and guys like that, Sam Presti, that year after year they're going to make mostly good decisions. You know,
It's just part of it.
And
The
they
analytics
trust-
are part of the overall thing.
Yeah.
not
And,
the
I mean,
be-all, end-all.
analytics to me is like strength and conditioning coaches. Very important. It's important to your basketball team, but it better not be any more than just a part.
Right.
But I think it is sometimes. It just
Yeah,
seems
no,
like from
I
what you
agree.
read and stuff, it seems like all of a sudden from 12%, it's all of a sudden 32%.
Well, it's like I've always said too. It's like, have you ever noticed? I mean, in the NBA, it's always talking about, boy, they got to develop these skills in the off season. Well, why in the hell ain't you developing in the on season?
Well, that's when they're not playing. Yeah.
Yeah, and you have practices. You got a 24-hour building open.
Yeah.
They don't have to go to school or
Yeah.
anything. They don't have to go to meetings. This is their job.
Yeah.
They got to go to the gym.
We all know analytics in some ways have taken over baseball. The thing that never made sense
really
to me is the analytics in football because you only have 17 games on. The sample sizes are so small. How do
Right.
you know any of it is
Yeah.
real? Well, analytics in football, but yeah, like you say, it's all should be part of the overall picture. We haven't talked about the Kings much, if at all, here. Where are we with the Kings this offseason? There was a report somewhere, was it Yahoo, that the Kings are looking to trade their first-round pick. Anything we make of that, or that they're willing to?
Well, they should be willing to. I mean, good grief, 24th pick. To get something they need, if they could trade that pick and get it, or trade that pick with somebody to
That's
get it.
what-
Vazenkov, trade that pick and Vazenkov.
That's what he's been on. Now the
Right.
guy's the MVP of the EuroLeague now, so obviously he has more clout.
MVP was 17.6 points per game.
I know, but they just named him yesterday.
Yeah,
He's the
okay.
MVP of the league. So
right.
hey, I got
So
an
I'd
MVP
say-
and the 24 pick.
Build a team around him.
Really?
No.
In the European League. Yeah, not here.
You got me for a minute.
Yeah, Europe.
there.
He had a
gave me the
glint in his
look,
eye
yeah.
on that one.
Yeah,
well done, sir.
But see, what
Well
I love
done.
about that is you have your team from last year that won 48 games. Then you've got these ancillary parts like Vazenkov. He wasn't part of that team. 24th pick. We earned that, but that's not part of the team. And we can get something to add here without subtracting from that, right? That's what I love about
That's
that.
ideal, yeah,
In
absolutely.
theory, it depends on what you're getting, but that's what I love about that.
Well, I mean, if you like Vazenkov and you think he could maybe be Harrison Barnes' second, well, maybe that would give you the right to maybe trade Harrison Barnes the first.
Okay.
A sign and
Ooh.
trade with a first-round pick, and maybe that gets you into Pascal Siakam or somebody like that.
yeah.
But then you really got to, aren't you relying then on the eye test? Because that's really what you've got if you think that guy's good enough
Yeah,
to do that.
and that-
If you're going to move him into not only your rotation, but maybe your starting
Yeah,
lineup,
yeah,
you got to
the
go,
G-
I've seen him, and
I've
I
seen
think that's
him.
how good he is.
Yeah, and in my mind is that would, and I trust those guys. I mean, they both went to see him play.
Right.
So if Mike Brown and Monty McNair said, yeah, we think he can do this, then that really gives you the chance to go ahead and try to put together a real deal.
Are you saying
Interesting.
Vazenkov's nickname should be the eye test? Is that what you're
I
saying?
think I'm not saying it shouldn't be. Okay, all right, yeah. Or you'll start
Okay,
rhyming something with his first
No.
name, and I don't
There
want
was
to
a
get into
catcher
that.
on the Padres whose nickname was the eye chart. Doug Woats, W-O.
Oh, because he had a bunch of Z's and
VZC or
K's.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The eye
So,
chart. That's a good
yeah.
nickname. I like that.
Yeah.
name.
The only thing I worry about with Vazenkov is my friend Jerry Reynolds
Yes.
told me that he's talked to scouts. They say he struggles defensively, and I just don't need any more of that on this team.
he'll fit right in.
Defense
defense, it all comes back to that.
That was last year.
Trademark Phantom. Thank you.
Well, there again, you would hope that if you did that and you think he could improve you even slightly offensively, then you got to go get that other piece some way that gives you a chance to equalize out at least to maintain in a bad defense rather than getting worse.
Yeah.
And maybe even improve. And
Yeah.
so if you could do that. But that's a tough situation to me if they don't do anything besides him. And I trust them that he's a really good player. But if you're just going to get more of what you already got,
Exactly. Who else in the West is arrows up? And who knows? We don't know what's going to happen in the offseason. Injuries. Because I don't think, Golden State is like, maybe, who knows? Maybe.
well, San Antonio's going to
Yes.
be.
Yes.
San
But
Antonio.
but they'll probably have a little bit of a ceiling. I mean,
They still got they're so young.
Yeah, and they need to go out and get one of the guys that we've talked about all day. They need to go out and get themselves an old-fashioned veteran point guard with all that young talent and go in maybe get a Tyrese Halliburton or some. Obviously, he's not available, but I'm just saying a guy like that to go in there and run that show because they have a lot of talented young guys, but nobody really who runs an offense. But what 10 games better maybe? Something like that, maybe a little bit. Of course, you don't know how far under the vest they were playing it this year.
Well, I
either.
think they were playing it pretty far under the vest. I really think I wouldn't. I don't think
Pop did it again.
Hey, Pop wasn't
basically.
even wearing a vest. I mean, he was going shirtless, man.
Yeah.
Shirtless Pop.
Yeah, come
Hey,
on.
come on.
But you
There's
look
gotta
at,
be
my point is, Memphis, with everything going on with Jaws, I don't know. Portland, OKC, yes, they appear to be. Look out for
Minnesota?
them. Minnesota.
Well, Gobert
maybe.
ruined the league, so there you got that.
Dallas,
But that's what the West was
big
this year,
opportunities
kind of.
for the Kings again. I agree.
That's why the Kings kind of seized the opportunity. Everybody else is kind of either by injury or whatever, and it doesn't look like that's going to be not available to them next year. Now, you don't know what the Lakers are going to be all about. I don't know what they're going to do. And Denver, you'd think, is going to be where they are now. But again, that middle of the top half of the conference wide open.
Well, I do think with they've got Keldon
Johnson.
Johnson, who's really good. Is it?
They got the other Jones
Vassell,
brother.
they got Devin Vassell, right?
Yeah.
Devin
Vassell.
and Jeremy Sohan.
Sohan. Yeah, I mean, there's some pieces there. And then, I mean, if I were them, besides, I'd do what I could to try to get Emmanuel Quickly.
Ooh, okay.
He's a young guy who's shown a lot. Now, he's hurt in the play, but he's shown I think he could run a team. Now, he's not a pure playmaker, but he can score and break people down. And that's one thing. You could run a lot of offense through Wembanyama.
I think
we
so.
think so, yeah. And you got it when you have a
Remember,
bunch of
he's
young...
not a believer yet in Wembanyama.
No, I am because of the fall away three that he rebounded with the slam dunk. I am, but I don't know about playmaking as far as that's concerned. But when you have a lot of young players, you want to get them all their touches.
I know
so you
one
got to
thing.
get somebody to move the ball.
He's got
around.
a great passing angle.
Yeah, like way, like one of those, like he's a drone, drone shot.
Yeah, airmail. Yeah, I'll tell you one thing where he's similar to Giannis. No one ever says Giannis's last name because it's so tough, Giannis. So he's going to be Wemby. Hey, did you see Wemby last night?
Hey, Dub, the big Dub. Yeah.
Oh, Wemby was great last night.
Hey, Yana.
Yeah,
that's a good point too.
Right? I mean,
I just
Vic,
for years
just
I just called him
Vic.
I just called him the Greek Freak. That was I didn't want to go Giannis.
Yeah, we got to get a good French nickname for Vic.
And even though I still know how to say Antetokounmpo, I still don't trust myself, and I'm just like Giannis.
But you don't need it. You don't need it. Giannis is going to do the job.
I guess so.
You really don't need it.
Yeah, Wembanyama, he'd be the French connection.
Yeah,
he could be.
French
he's very proud of this one.
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, all French draft things that aren't players but things from France. What's your first pick, Phantom? French things.
Oh, it's got to be some pastries or some. Oh man, the French pastry,
It's like a croissant.
The beignets, the croissants.
Croissant.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Be on one of those cafes in Paris, sipping
I think I might go French toast on you. I might go right back in.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh Jesus.
What's what?
That's one say French fries.
Well,
how about just a damn donut?
French cruller.
Yeah.
Damn donut.
How about just a damn donut? That's a good nickname for Wembanyama, too.
All right, as we get ready to depart here, reluctantly, of course, if I'm a Celtics fan, should I feel like, you know what, we're good. Miami made everything. They're still an 8 seed. I'm in good shape. Should I still be feeling good if I'm a Celtics fan?
No.
Really?
No, I mean, there's no reason to believe you can't win it, but you better win this one. This is real pressure. Now, they've proven throughout that they are as good on the road as they are at home, and they've got the talent to still win this series and still could win it in 6, I think. But boy, don't ever underestimate the Miami Heat. I mean, with playoff Jimmy.
Yeah. Well, who's Max Strus? He wasn't even drafted.
I don't know who
Gabe
he is.
Vincent. I got Tatum and I got Brown and I'm losing to
Wasn't
Max
he on the
Strus.
Gabe Vincent was on the Stockton Kings last year or something.
No, 2 years ago.
2 years ago, he's on the Stockton Kings. Now he's starting in the conference final.
How is that happening?
They got one of the Martin twins. I have no idea which one it is.
Caleb or Cody.
But the thing is
The other one's on
they're
the
like the
Hornets.
guys in the
Yeah, the other
playground.
one's on Hornets. That might be somebody you ought to think about.
Get somebody who's related to
he's
a guy
a
we
twin,
know is
and
good.
that guy's really good.
I just
Maybe
think-
the Charlotte don't know what they're doing.
I
Let's get him.
I just think the Celtics have to kind of man up a little bit in this game because Miami came in and took over the playground. I mean, they took over. They bullied them in the right way, the basketball bully way, and they have put their imprint on the series already in Game 1. And Boston has got to bounce back against that in Game 2.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you next time. We'll see you Monday.
Oh, that's next time.
Yeah.
Next time. Yay!
Au revoir.
On the maybe I'll wear my shirt if I can find it.
I'm
that
going to wear a
French?
yellow shirt.
Is that French?
Au revoir, yeah.
Old Fashioned 3.
Okay.
Old Fashioned 3.
Thank you for joining the Old Fashioned 3 on Stones Radio Networks. To stay updated on the show, like and subscribe on YouTube, and all shows are available for download on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts, and of course at stonesradionetworks.com. Follow the show and the gents on Twitter at OL, Fashioned, and the number 3, at Phantom Radio 60, and at Whitey Gleason. This has been a production of Stones Radio Networks.